Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils lose again, and folks, this team is officially slumping.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for a little over 5 years now. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out on Locked On Phillies. When you hit that subscribe button on the YouTube, you get notifications when new episodes are posted. It's free. It's easy. So I really appreciate everyone who's done that, is going to do that in the future. So thank you to everyone for supporting us here on Locked On Phillies. And thank you to FanDuel for sponsoring today's episode. They bring you today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins with our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, it might be time to start betting against the Phillies because this team is officially slumping. They lose 10-4 to the San Francisco Giants in the series opener at Citizens Bank Park. Now, 4-game series, chance to bounce back, all of that stuff. We'll get into that. We're going to preview Game 2 later on in the episode. We're also going to get into some interesting Kyle Schwarber contract extension news that came out over the weekend that I didn't get a chance to really talk about in the response to 2 shutouts in a series loss to the Cardinals. But first, we got to talk about what happened last night. And you had a glimmer of hope last night, at least from the jump, for the Philadelphia Phillies. They scored 3 runs in the first inning. They looked really good to start off at the dish. And Taijuan Walker had gotten through the top of the first flawlessly. So it was an ideal start for the Phillies. And then it all turned in a flash. Walker gave up 6 runs in the second inning. Next thing you know, it's 6-3. That whole lead is just kind of demolished that the Phillies have brought up. And now you're as far down as you were up in the course of 1 inning. And it was what everyone was afraid of with Taijuan Walker. The guy didn't have the movement that he needed to yesterday. Made a bad play on the field, throwing the ball away. They could have been a double play. They got him out with only 1 earned in the inning. And instead ends up just completely imploding in the second. And it sucks to see for him because he had that nice start to the year, 2 scoreless outings. But this was always kind of the guy you were afraid of coming back, right? Is the Taijuan Walker without much movement, who's spotting his pitches up in the zone, which leads to hard contact. The Giants are a team that creates a lot of extra base hits. At least they have so far this year, and a bit of a small sample size, but still, they're a dangerous offensive team. Their record will show you that. And Taijuan Walker just he wasn't good enough, and that's why people were immediately thinking, let me Google when Ranger Suarez is going to be back with the team. Now, Ranger Suarez, to give you a little bit of an update on him, because a lot of people saw that Taijuan Walker start, and they're like, we can't do this again. Right? The Phil's offense was woken up early, and then it still didn't matter because Walker didn't pitch well. Banks didn't pitch well out of the bullpen to kind of keep the lead there when the Phillies tried to bounce back. Nick Castellanos, a big home run in the game. He's been swinging it like crazy, so good for Casty. If it doesn't result in wins, whatever. Like right now, the Phillies need to get back in the win column to stop this team slide. But Ranger Suarez could be help to the Phillies kind of steadying the ship. He's making a rehab start tomorrow, and then he's supposed to go like 50 pitches. We'll see what that does and how long he's got. He may have 1 more start before he comes back up to the major league level, or he could be good after this one. But he's getting close, as is Weston Wilson, which could be help to the outfield because the outfield needs help. While the Phils had a good start to the game offensively, it wasn't just like Taijuan Walker imploded in the second inning and the game was over. Now, Phils only scored 4 runs, so you could argue that. But after that, the Phils just couldn't cash in with runners in scoring position. They've been dreadful lately with runners in scoring position. Johan Rojas had some major opportunities in this game. And everyone who was killing Brandon Marsh and saying, how is he still in the lineup? How are they still playing him? This guy can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. You're not wrong about where Brandon Marsh is right now. But my contention has always been, what do you want him to do? They don't really have a better option right now in the outfield. If Kepler's going to play left, either Marsh or Rojas has to play center. And we know that Johan Rojas is not a plus major league bat. Last night, he was a dreadful one. Now, should Rojas continue to get opportunities in this series? Absolutely, because Marsh has gotten plenty of opportunity to show what he is at the start of this year. And right now, he is not a playable baseball player. But is Johan Rojas a playable baseball player if he puts together at bats like that? Also no, which is why Weston Wilson could be a help. He can play the outfield. He's got a career batting average in the 280 range. So if you're like, well, Weston Wilson, he's a quad A guy. I got you. You don't have a lot of sample size of him hitting at the major league level, but I'll take the chance with his bat over what I've seen from Marsh and Rojas so far this year. Rojas has been clearly better than Marsh at the plate in a smaller sample size, but neither of those options are good in the outfield. I'm not just going to kill Rojas for this, though. There were other bad at-bats. Trey Turner had a bad at-bat. I mean, the Phils just didn't cash in when they needed to. And then when they were poised to cash in late, home plate umpire Tony Randazzo took it away from him. Now, JT Realmuto had a chance where late in this game, I believe it was the 7th inning, he goes out there, runners on second and third, nukes the ball down the left field line. It was over the foul pole. It was just foul by like centimeters, it looked like, on the broadcast. So unfortunately, it didn't cross over the foul pole. It was ruled a foul ball. And then a ball that was well outside, that was a breaking ball coming back to the zone. So it never was on the plate. It's not like if you start a ball in the middle of the plate and it ends up outside, an umpire can get fooled by that. No, like this ball was outside the whole way. And Randazzo called a strike 3 on JT in a big spot in the game. Not the reason the Phillies lost. There was a lot of things, as with most Phillies losses these days, that went wrong for the team. But still, it was the immediate thought of like, man, why do we not have the ABS system now? The automatic balls and strikes taken care of. Like, there should be the challenge system implemented already, but you're gonna have to wait till next year for that. I can't wait for it to get here. I don't want full robo-umps, but I can't have umpires unchecked killing chances to closing up games like you saw from Randazzo last night. But the other thing that was interesting, JT had a very, very strong emotional reaction to that. Helmet flies off, hands on the head, talking with Randazzo, saying, dude, how the heck do you miss that pitch? I've been behind the plate all night with you. It hasn't been there all night. Like, what in the world are you seeing? You cannot miss that call. Rob Thompson, meanwhile, never even budges to move out of the dugout. And then you come back from a commercial break watching the TV broadcast, and he's out there, and you're like, oh, is he arguing? And now he's just talking about, like, one of the sets of lights at the stadium had gone out, so they had to wait for those to come back on. I don't think we had some people when I did morning radio today that were texting and calling in, asking if, like, Rob Thompson's checked out. He's not checked out. It's not an I don't care thing. It's not a, oh, we're fine, I'm not going to argue that call. He's just more of a laid-back guy. Maybe it's a Canadian thing. I don't know. But in a lot of other instances, if there were different guys sitting there as the manager of that team, they would have gotten run, would have gotten tossed, would have gone out and argued, would have gone ballistic on that call by that umpire, and Rob Thompson did not seem interested in arguing on his player's behalf. And I think that's a misstep by Rob Thompson. Now, I don't think it says anything overarching about him as a manager, good, bad, whatever. Like, in that instance, I would have gotten run. A lot of people would have gotten run. A lot of managers would have gotten run. Now, there are also a lot of managers that probably wouldn't have in a game in mid-April, this early in the season. But, like, the point still stands. Rob Thompson should have showed emotion there. There's just a lot of stuff that the vibe feels off with the Phillies right now, which is why I say they are officially slumping right now. They hit to start, then they didn't pitch, then they kind of pitched, then they kind of hit, then neither pitched nor hit, and just like everything is not going their way. Tip your cap to the San Francisco Giants, right? Their record is what it is because they're a solid baseball team. And former Philly Pat Burrell has done a nice job creating an offense that lives off of extra base hits. A lot of strikeouts potentially in that lineup, but still, they're not like a bad team. You're not losing to the Colorado Rockies, but you also shouldn't be giving up 10 and losing to the Giants in that fashion. It was another miserable game and a string of miserable games. And when you're in this stretch, right, don't you kind of feel what guys like Brandon Marsh or Alec Bohm or any slumping baseball player feels when you watch your favorite baseball team and they're doing this? Like, I want you to think about it from that perspective real quick. I'm not asking you to be nicer to these guys. Also, Alec Bohm, nice double in the game. off the wall in left center. Maybe that jumpstarts something for him in the next couple of days. Who knows? But he hasn't really been hitting anything at all. So, well, he's been hitting, but he hasn't been getting hits on anything at all that he's putting into play. So that was nice to see. But when you're in those type of slumps, right, it feels like there's nothing you can do. Like you just feel resigned to the fact that this is not going to go well. And I think that's what a good amount of Phillies fans are feeling with the stretch the Phils are in. They've lost 4 of their last 5. And that's not a good place to be, right? You're not going to win series like that. You're not going to be a competitive team like that. And the Phillies are still a good competitive baseball team. They're just not playing like one right now. So they're going to have to bounce back somehow. It was an annoying game. I know people are getting frustrated with this team. We had somebody text in and say, well, the Phils are already 2 games back in the NL East, and the NL West looks like they're going to run wild cards through there. So it's going to be hard for them to make the play. Slow down. It is April. It is April 15th, tax day, by the way. Make sure you get your taxes done. Jackie Robinson Day, by the way. Make sure that you're checking that out tonight when teams play across baseball, wearing the number 42. Great player, great man, legend of the game and of inclusion in the game. So a lot of stuff going on today that you want to keep an eye on as far as things to take note of. But when you watch the game tonight, I think the number one thing Phillies fans are going to be watching for is, can this team somehow stop this slide? Jesus Luzardo on the mound. We'll talk about it. Justin Verlander, not the Verlander of old, but the current Justin Verlander on the mound for the San Francisco Giants. I don't know, man. Like we're at that stretch of the where you realize the team is slumping and everything feels bad, where you're just like, I don't know how they win tonight. If I say they'll hit, they won't pitch. If I say they'll pitch, they won't hit. You kind of just gotta mentally bear down and believe in yourself. And the Phillies don't seem like they're playing with a lot of belief in themselves right now, at least not after the first inning last night. But on the positive spin, that first inning was basically more offense than they created in 2 games against the Cardinals. So it wasn't as bad as the shutout losses, but it wasn't a major step in the right direction. And this team feels a little lost, but not like stuck in the woods. I need an airlift to get me out of here, or a bear's going to kill me lost. Like I made a wrong turn or 2 on my way home from a place that I'm not used to driving from, and I can figure this out. That's where the Phillies are at right now. It's still frustrating, especially when you have somewhere to be, aka World Series contention. But something else that could be frustrating is not getting a contract offer that you agree with if you're a player. And that sounds like what happened to Kyle Schwarber before the season started. We're going to discuss a very interesting report on Kyle Schwarber being offered an extension and turning it down as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. But first, let's talk about FanDuel. They bring us today's episode, and they also give you a great place to bet on the NBA playoffs, which are here. And FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting super easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into some player props. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. And, of course, it's not just basketball. Earlier this morning, I took the over on Jesus Luzardo strikeouts in tonight's game against the Giants. They're a big-time strikeout lineup. Something to keep an eye on. FanDuel's got everything you want to bet on, so don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's FanDuel.com. So this Kyle Schwarber conversation is a very, very interesting one, and some fans are going to be very nervous about this. Part of the conversation that has started with this Kyle Schwarber hot start to the year is re-sign Kyle Schwarber. Where is that extension? Can't believe they haven't extended him yet. What is going on? Why are the Phillies not trying to get this done? Well, the Phillies did try and get it done. They tried to get it done in the right way. Oftentimes, players that are heading into contract years that will consider staying with the organization they're currently with will not want to negotiate a contract while they're playing games. It's distracting, right? Your agent calls you before a game. Hey, what about this number? What about this? How much do you want to get paid? Do you want to stay here for the next 2, 3, 4 years? What's the future of your family going to look like? Contracts are not just sign on the dotted line for Major League Baseball players. There's a lot of thought and a lot of process that goes into that, which is why they like to try and do it before the season starts or after the season is over. More on that in a second. But Kyle Schwarber, per reports, was working on an extension with the Philadelphia Phillies, or rather the Phillies gave him a preliminary offer. Schwarber and his team basically said, yeah, no, that ain't going to get it done. And they decided to table it. They did not come to an agreement. Now, I don't know what the offer was. That has not been reported. What I do know is that Kyle Schwarber is an absolute professional. Like, this is not going to be, oh, he's going to become discontent at some point in the season. Like, clearly you can see from his start to the season, he's as zoned in as anybody in baseball. So Schwarber's fine. He's not like ticked off at the Phillies organization for giving him an insultingly low offer or anything like that. We don't even know how close the sides were, but it was far enough away that Schwarber said, no, thank you. So now you have to think about the Aaron Nola route, which is basically, hey, we worked on this in spring training. We couldn't come to a deal. You're going to play out the regular season. Then when the regular season is over, we'll give you a chance to set your market in free agency. We will try to re-sign you based on where other teams' value of you is. Because that's the argument, right? When you have this disagreement in contract, the player says, I can go get, let's just use $100 million, for example. I can go get $100 million for 3 years to play with X team. Or there's multiple teams that we know would be in on that offer based on my production. You go to the Phillies and you say, here's what my price is. And the Phils say, we don't believe anyone's going to pay you that. Or we think you're worth this. And then you have a chance from a good organization, if the Phillies do allow Schwarber to get there, maybe they'll do something this season, I doubt it, to go out and prove your theory. Prove that you're getting offers from other teams in that range, and then come back to the Phillies and say, hey, here's what they're offering me. I like being here. I would take the same, or maybe you need to pay more. But whatever the case may be, I don't get the feeling from that report that Kyle Schwarber is going to be looking to sign an extension in season. Doesn't sound like he wants to negotiate. Doesn't sound like he wants to do talks. And it's not spiteful to the Phillies. It's, I want to focus on my craft, because with every home run Kyle Schwarber hits, his dollar amount goes up. With every other contract that gets done this year, his dollar amount goes up. Like, he is adding value to what is probably his last big contract at the major league level. So no one can be faulted here. And the Phillies, I guess in hindsight, you can look at it and say, hey, you probably should have been a little more aggressive in getting this done before the season, because he's now started red hot and the price is going up and you're costing yourself money. Here's where I'll contend that. Could you imagine after an offseason where everyone's upset that they're running back this same core, and you look and you say, okay, your free agents after this year are basically JT Realmuto and Kyle Schwarber. And outside of those guys, I mean, Ranger Suarez as well, right, in the rotation, but just talking hitters. Outside of those guys, JT's still here. Well, sorry, not JT is still here. Castellanos is still here. Harper, Turner, Bohm, Stott, Marsh. Like, most of your guys are still under contract. Doesn't mean they can't trade them, but you don't really have many spots even this coming year to majorly change the team unless you're proactive with it, right? Just from general turnover of free agency, you got 3 guys: Suarez, Schwarber, Realmuto. And if you had dropped the announcement the Phillies have re-signed or extended Kyle Schwarber for another 3 or 4 years, you know what the fan base would have said? Yeah, you out there who are now excited to try and get Kyle Schwarber back would probably have had the reaction of, now we're doing this again. They're extending it out even further. How long are they going to run this back for? This team's going to be ancient. They're never going to win. So, like, as much as I would have loved the Phillies to get it done at a better price, and I want Kyle Schwarber back, I want him to be the DH of this team in the future, I don't blame them for being a little bit more conservative, because at the same time, he is still an aging player. We are having these conversations about how long is this team's window open because of players like Schwarber and Realmuto and Harper and Turner and Castellanos and Wheeler and Nola and this aging core of the Phillies roster. Not that they're bad players, but that they're aging players, and time hits some people quickly. You can go from hitting 270 1 year to 240, don't have any like pop anymore. It could fall off quickly for guys, and you want to be careful of that if you're a GM or president of baseball operations. So the Kyle Schwarber news could be disheartening for some Phillies fans. Remember, though, Nola did this, a year ago, and did not get a deal done in spring training when they were working on one. went through the season, didn't want to negotiate, went to free agency, found out what he was worth, came back to Philadelphia because he wanted to be here. This is still a place people want to play. I mean, it's a great sports city, great organization. They're going to win a lot of baseball games this year. They're going to be competitive. So Schwarber could absolutely come back. But the first attempt at getting him to re-sign with the Philadelphia Phillies or extend his contract with the Philadelphia Phillies, it was very quickly dismissed from his perspective. So back to the drawing board, trying to figure it out. Dave Dombrowski is going to have to work some magic, and we will see what the future holds for Kyle Schwarber. I root for him to have a great year. I root for him to hit like 80 bombs, right? Because that'll help the Phillies be good in the moment. We'll cross the bridge of paying him when we have to pay him. But just know that every home run that leaves the yard, at Citizens Bank Park or otherwise, is another tick up in what a potential Kyle Schwarber deal could be worth. And the Phillies have already missed. I don't want to say squandered or anything, but objectively, they missed an opportunity in spring training to sign him to a deal that could have been more team friendly. Coming up next, we don't have to worry about November, December, January, and what's going to happen with free agency and Major League Baseball in 25, 26. We need to worry about how the Phillies are going to win tonight because, man, that is a tough question to answer. But we're going to attempt to coming up next as they prepare to face Justin Verlander on the bump tonight, but not the Verlander that you remember. We'll talk about Game 2 with the Giants in just a second. But I do want to tell you about Prize Picks because basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up, and there's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With Prize Picks, it's super easy. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports, basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. So it's not like you have to do them all in one game or all in one sport. You could do maybe like Jesus Luzardo over in strikeouts that I talked about earlier, and you could also do, I don't know, an over on points for somebody in the play-in tournament in basketball. And the next thing you know, you got a bunch of money. Here's what I'm looking at this week, right? I already told you the Luzardo thing. Look at the Chicago Bulls and their ability to score the basketball. Kobe White, he is going to be a guy that they're going to have to look at to go get them buckets. Now, I don't know that they win, which could be even better because they're going to have to push to the end to try and score. Look at his over on points. Those are what I'm looking at today and this week for the potential picks on Prize Picks. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with Prize Picks. Go ahead and run your game with our friends over at Prize Picks. So how did the Phillies win Game 2? It's an impossible question to answer right now because they're not playing good baseball. But we're going to try and deduce ways, right, that they can figure this out. Option 1, or I guess requirement 1, because they're going to need to do multiple things right, as all teams do when they win baseball games. Jesus Luzardo's got to be awesome, right? He's going to have to go out there, and he's going to have to pitch his rear off again. And he has this year. He's been very, very good for the Philadelphia Phillies through a couple of starts. Why does he have to be so good? Because the Phillies are in the middle of a stretch of 16 games in 16 days. The Giants are in the middle of a stretch of 17 games in 17 days. It is a 4-game series. Like both pitchers in last night's game, where you look at those guys getting shelled early, you felt like both teams might have to go to the pen early. And then both guys battled into the middle to later innings of the game, save some arms. But part of the reason they were given the opportunity to do so is because we got 3 more games, and then we got games after that, and we can't really just like burn the pen in Game 1. You also can't in Game 2. So the deeper Luzardo goes, the better. Now that's why it's also a good time to be facing Justin Verlander, who comes in with a 6.92 ERA and 13 innings pitched. For example, Jesus Luzardo has 18 innings pitched already, so 5 more over the same amount of starts. I mean, Luzardo's going deeper into games. Verlander is not the guy he used to be. He isn't that good anymore. He doesn't have the command. He is an aging player, aging. He's already aged. He's 42 years old, and he's still out there, and he's still a legend, and he's a Lock Hall of Famer, and all of these things. But you're not seeing Detroit Tigers or Houston Astros Justin Verlander, right? That's not the guy that you're getting tonight. You're getting a hittable pitcher from the right side that allows lefties to focus in. Now, Brandon Marsh not in the lineup last night, which was a great move by Rob Thompson. I don't expect him to be again tonight, even with another righty on the mound, because Topper was talking about getting him multiple days off as kind of a mental reset. So you'll probably see Johan Rojas out there in center field again. We'll see how that goes. But step one is Luzardo taking care of business on the mound, giving you a good quality start. Step two is finding somebody in the bottom half of the order to make something happen. When the Phils were winning games early, and they went on a nice little stretch against the Dodgers and everything, they were creating opportunities at the bottom of the lineup. They're minimal, but they're coming from guys like Bryson Stott as well. And you had the opportunities of Mundo Sosa when he was down there, J.T. Realmuto every once in a while when he gets bumped down there. They don't really have that luxury anymore because now Stott's batting leadoff because Bohm hasn't been able to protect Harper, which means you got to move Schwarber back to behind Harper, which means the bottom of your lineup is just littered with all the guys struggling right now, and that's not good. So guys like Bryson Stott has to be good at the top, but you have to more look at the back half of the order and say, in tonight's game, I need some type of production out of Bohm, Realmuto, Rojas, Kepler. Kepler had a nice 2-hit night last night, but none of them like huge impactful hits. It was an infield hit and like a beat out of a fielder's choice. And then he did have one down the line that was nice to see. But I'd like to see him start drive the baseball more. You got to get the bottom of the lineup rolling for the Philadelphia Phillies. The other thing that's going to be key is you're going to have to pitch for the strikeout. And Taijuan Walker couldn't really do that last night. He didn't have his strikeout stuff. And even when he does have strikeout stuff, it's not to the level of Jesus Luzardo remotely. The Giants are not a contact team, so you can strike them out a bunch. I think they're 5th in Major League Baseball in strikeouts so far on the year. But if they do hit the ball, they're an extra base machine team. Part of that is because their home ballpark is very wide out in the outfield, so there's a lot of room to work. Or I guess not wide. I guess they're all the same width, but it's deep in the alleys and everything. So it's easier for you to find spots where you can place the baseball that'll get you 2 bags. We know that from seeing the Phillies play out there in San Fran for years. But you can strike them out, and Luzardo is a strikeout pitcher. So if you can take care of that, you don't run into the 10-run performance that Phillies pitchers gave up last night. So strikeouts from Luzardo, long start from Luzardo, bottom half of the order production. That's what you're looking for. We haven't done this too much this year, but I used to do it a lot more on the podcast, looking at the numbers. The Phillies are minus 160 favorites on the money line. They're 58.8% favorites, according to ESPN Analytics. I mean, they should win this game, but we've seen that before. I don't know. Every night, I'm going to feel like this is the night they finally break out. And every night that they lose or they struggle, I'm going to say, well, I'm not really all that surprised because I think it's a great baseball team, but one that's not playing well right now. Just to give you an idea, though, right, of where we are in the season, a little perspective of what bouncing back means in game 2 of a series in mid-April. Just some stories from around Major League Baseball that maybe make you feel a little bit better about where the Phillies are at right now. Sitting with a 9-7 record, 2 games over 500. Still a solid start to the year in a vacuum, even though they're not playing well right now. The Rockies were shut out over the weekend by the Padres for an entire series. The Athletics, not the Oakland Athletics, because they're not in Oakland anymore. The Athletics had one of their injury carts run out of gas on the field or die on the field, and they had to push it off. The Dodgers over the weekend, they lost to the Cubs 16-0. Like the Dodgers, yeah, the best team in baseball. Now, one-off game, right? That's what we say when we look at the Dodgers. Meanwhile, when we look at the Phillies, every game is Game 7 of the World Series. I'm not saying the Phillies are playing better than those teams. I'm just saying, like, there are struggles for every team all the time in baseball. And it's early. The Cardinals, who you just played before you're taking on the San Francisco Giants right now, their series before playing the Phillies was Boston's home opener at Fenway, right? They hadn't played a home series yet. It's still very, very, very early into the season. So everyone take a deep breath. I know I'm saying that a lot. I'm trying to save you a trip to the doctors for high blood pressure. They're not playing good baseball right now. They have another opportunity to win tonight. I don't really know how they figure it out based on what I saw last night, which was just hey, when something goes right, 2 other things go wrong. But Rob Thompson said after last night's game, things can flip in a second in this sport. Quickly, you can go from playing bad baseball to good baseball and vice versa. So that's why it's so important to try and be consistent, and why over 162, it's so hard to win consistently. But before you know it, this team's going to be back to hitting. You just got to, the players have to believe in themselves that they're going to come out of it. You as the fan base have to kind of believe they're still a good baseball team right now. And they will be. They absolutely will be, and they're going to prove you right eventually. We will see if tonight is the night they get back in the win column. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you again for joining us. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. It's free and easy to subscribe. It'll get you notifications for new episodes when they're posted. And for your second listen today, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. You can get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll react to tonight's game on tomorrow's episode. And we're also going to talk a little bit about, hopefully not the center field position, but if things go how I think they're going to go with whoever starts at center tonight, we are going to discuss options, because the Phillies don't really have any. But that's a conversation for tomorrow. Go win a ball game tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.